Join me now from Jefferson City, Missouri, Missouri Secretary of State, Jay Ashcroft. Thank you so much for joining me.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
What are your thoughts on the mandatory mail-in ballots? Is this a good thing for our country right before the election?
No, it's not a good thing. The best way for people to vote safely and know that their vote will count is to vote in person. Every year that we have mail-in balloting in any state you look at across this country, there's always 2, maybe 3% of those ballots that don't count. If we're encouraging people to do mail-in ballot instead of voting in person, we're encouraging at least 1 out of, say, every 50, 1 out of every 45 of them to have their vote not count. That's wrong. We should be encouraging people to do what's best to make sure that their voice is heard and they make a difference in the election.
So in Missouri, they're asking for the mail-in ballots to be notarized for the vote to count. Is this a big controversy right now? Are people upset about that? Or is this something that regular everyday folks will have access to?
I think it's a tempest in a teapot. People want their elections to both be easy and to be secure. And one of the ways that we make it harder for people to cheat is to require that they notarize their mail-in ballots. The Secretary of State's office has put out lists across the state of notaries that have agreed to notarize these ballots for free. We have libraries that are doing drive-up notarizations. We have banks and real estate agents that are doing this. It's easy to be done. It protects the vote and makes sure that the people themselves make the decision.
Yeah, I saw recent polling. It says 71% of Republicans say they would actually prefer to vote in person, with 21% preferring to vote by mail and 9% preferring to drop off their ballot. What does that say? There's a big push from Democrats, right? They love this idea of mandatory mail-in balloting, and you have to wonder if there's something like nefarious going on there.
Well, I just go back. I believe we should all agree, although we don't agree on a whole lot, we should all agree that every registered voter should have the easy opportunity to vote safely and their vote should count. When you move from in-person to mail-in ballots, you're going to disenfranchise people because some of those ballots, generally 2 to 3%, will be rejected for some reason or another. There are individuals that have to vote absentee. They can't go to the polls. Our fine young men and women across the globe that are protecting us, that makes sense. But if you can go vote in person, it's safe and it's the best way to make sure that your vote will count.
What did you make of the recent reports over in Georgia where the Secretary of State's office said about 1,000 cases of double voting occurred during their summer elections, and it wasn't by accident, like these people knew they were doing double voting?
Well, I know the Secretary of State of Georgia well. I know that he does a good job. I know that he will get to the bottom of this and that if people are intentionally breaking the law, he will make sure to the fullest extent of his authority that they are punished. Look, vote fraud has been something that people have known about throughout history. I have an antique ballot box in my office from the late 1800s, early 1900s. It came with a lock on it when it was built because people knew that people would try to cheat. We should set up our elections so that it's hard to cheat, but easy to vote honestly, so that people can have confidence and they will participate and make their voice heard.
Yeah, and of course, many on the left say that like voter fraud's a myth, that it doesn't really happen. And
they say that, but it's not true. And in fact, it's pretty sad. We had a state representative that ran for re-election against a challenger. In that first race, the state representative was re-elected. There was an investigation that was done. This was in the city of St. Louis, not that bastion of right-wing conservatism. And the judge said, wait a minute, there are hundreds of problems with absentee ballots. They overturned that election and then held another election about a month later. And the person that had supposedly lost when they ran a good, clean, fair election received 75% of the vote. Although then once they got into office, they said that vote fraud didn't exist, even though they were almost stopped from winning their election because of it.
Well, in Georgia, they're saying, well, the 1,000 double voting didn't make a difference in this race. But as you're pointing out, it can make a difference in some districts. It's like the congressional districts, obviously, and that could turn a red district blue, a blue district red, if you will.
Yes, we have close elections every year. Our current state Senate minority leader in our state Senate won his first election to the legislature by 1 vote. Subsequent to that election, about 2 years later, 2 immediate family members pled guilty in a court of law to illegally voting in that election. Now, unless you believe that his family members broke the law intentionally to vote against him, he was put in place based on voter fraud. I don't see how else you can see that. And anytime we allow fraudulent votes to be counted, we are disenfranchising the legitimate voters of the state. And we want every eligible voter to know that they can vote and their vote will count. We just won't let them vote twice.
Yeah, absolutely. And AG Bill Barr has been speaking out against voter fraud quite a bit, and we have video of it. Roll tape.
There are going to be ballots floating around and collected. And so that opens up the possibility of fraud. I did observe, after making the points here, that given our concern about foreign influence in campaigns, it's ironic that no one seems to be concerned about this process of mailed-in ballots. In some places, perhaps counterfeiting ballots would be difficult, and others probably not difficult. But the question is, if you're dealing with a nation state and a foreign intelligence service, is it really more costly than the less direct means of influence that they use today?
Yeah, all good points. I'll let you react to that quickly.
Well, whenever it comes to vote fraud, we want people to have confidence. So as long as we can secure our elections while still making sure that every legal voter has a great opportunity to vote, we should do that. We need to make sure our elections are secure and people understand it so they'll participate.
Well, we're going to have to leave it here. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Want to see more videos like this? Click on the link below and subscribe to One America News on YouTube, and call your cable provider and kindly demand that One America News is added to your lineup. Call and subscribe today.